Today's a good day to talk about Torquay in Devon, the seaside. Anytime you ask someone about what do you think about Torquay, most people, it's never consensus. Some people really dislike it, and others say, well, it's not bad. And it just depends on who you're asking. Locals, if you tell locals, oh, this is a really nice place, yeah, okay, whatever. And then they start just going on about everything wrong with the place, the jobs, the lack of opportunity, the fact that it's UK and you don't get a lot of sunshine. People always have something to complain about. And for people coming, there are two ways people approach Torquay. They come in and walk along the seaside and say, oh, it's interesting, but I'm not coming back. And you're thinking, what? You said it's interesting. Yeah, but it's not the same. It looks run down, and it just seems that nobody really cares about the town, and it's got a lot of elderly people in their mobile scooter, and they're trying to run you off the road. Probably people exaggerating. Probably people encountering some elderly people on a very bad day. So you get a mixture of both. But there's just so much to talk about this city or this little town. And it's run down, people have said, but it's improving, but not as much as you would like to be. It is reportedly that a few years back, they got a grant to regenerate the area, and whilst they were doing that, they couldn't even get it right because by the time they were able to fix what needs to be fixed, the price was just inflation came in, and they're still at it basically. So it is just an ongoing problem trying to make it look better. And some of the interesting things or the sad things about this area is that it used to be cool, Devon, but it is said that it is one of the most dangerous places in Devon. I'm like, what? Well, you see, this is an interesting thing because the population is predominantly white. I don't know if they're ethnic English, but okay, predominantly white. That's an important thing. And when you get that level of poverty in the area, and then you get lack of opportunities and disorderly behavior. Some people would say, well, yeah, it's run down because there are a lot of immigrants, people from elsewhere. But then when you get a huge majority of people who are ethnically the same, similar culture, but then you still get the same problems that you get in other areas. It tells you that the condition that people tend to attribute to immigrants or immigration and multiculturalism is a bit simplifying a complex human issue. Anyway, so one of the things that people notice is that if you're well off, you live really well in the area in Turkey, and people have said, yeah, I would rather live in Exeter, but it's just too expensive. So I looked at Turkey, which is a bit more affordable, and people say, well, I understand why it is affordable. It's not a great place to live. So you get a mixed review, but there have been some interesting things about the area. First of all, crime is a problem, and it says violence offenses, people drinking too much and then being belligerent and then just making life impossible for others. So that's not a good thing. And then drug offenses are on the rise as well. So and so is poverty. People being loud and just not being hospitable. So that is not a good reputation to have when you live in a town that's dependent on tourism. And most of the tourism, it was said that before that, some years back, you would get a lot of French younger people, tourists, or people doing exchange program coming to learn English and Spanish, and then they would come and visit the town. And in the summer, it was packed with all these young people, and then the older people would complain, oh, why are they here? All these French people speaking foreign language and all that, complaining. And I don't know what it is. Is it that the older we all get, the more we tend to complain? Or is it more an insular thing where people who have not been exposed to a lot of diversity? I'm not even talking about, when I say diversity, I'm not talking about European diversity, do they tend to be a bit more intolerant? Or is it just an insular idea where you complain for the sake of complaining? You don't even know you're doing it. It's just like a pastime, what do I do today? Let me complain. I don't know. Anyway, so that is another problem people have experienced in the area, that when they went to Turkey, they basically were run out of town. And this brings us to an incident that actually happened, where some people have been overtly racist, and basically complaining about everyone that's different from them, which is well, it's not really strange, but I just think there's fear behind it. And when you read the news, that if the news is biased, and you also notice something, that when something is wrong with an area, the news tend to be more interesting when something is wrong. For example, there was a fire that happened not too long ago in the area, and the fire actually caught a lot of media attention. That was on May 28, 2022, and the fire was like it was a yacht, a $6 million yacht, caught fire. The rope that was attached to the anchor burnt, and it drifted towards the pier. It burned part of the pier, and they had to close everything down. It was a bit of a chaotic situation, and it got a lot of news because it was like sensational. And for some whatever reason, when you talk about immigration and the good side of it, nobody wants to hear that, because you have the idea that it's not supposed to be good. But then it just feels really bizarre that in a place that would do well with getting more people coming in, job opportunities, and more productivity, and more manpower to take care of the aging population, that you would think they would be a bit more receptive to the idea of more people, it doesn't matter where they come from, coming into the area, bringing more opportunities, more jobs. They would also bring their own problems with them, of course. Just similar to when the British went and colonized all the other areas in the world. They brought technology with them, they brought their ideas, they brought their religion, and they brought their superior what's it called, personality complex with them, and they brought other problems by creating wars. You get the point. So anywhere people go, you bring the good and the bad and the ugly. It's just what is just part of life. Anyway, now let's talk about the reason why some people say it's no longer the same and it's run down. When you go towards the town center, the pier and the seaside, it's quite nice. And you have a lot of little shops and people walking around. It looks nice. You got flowers. They're trying to modernize it, make it a bit more appealing so that more people would come and visit. And part of the problems with how all the some of the part of the area became derelict and abandoned was due to, well, growth. When you have big brands like Debenhams, or brings big companies like Nortel, and coming into the area, and what they tend to do is they'll buy a big plot of land, build a massive warehouse or shopping center, a store, big stores, and when the big stores come into town, they tend to cannibalize the smaller businesses, and the smaller businesses will close. And once they close, if the big business stays, then it's fine. But then when they close down, it leaves this, first of all, it generates a lot more unemployment, and also generates this massive hole in the economy. And that is what happened to when Nortel left Torquay, and then what else, what other brands anyway left, other bigger commercial buildings were left empty. And once they were left empty, a lot of people would like to go and see what's inside, and then vandalism starts, and then it just becomes, and then if you were doing something illegal, that's where you go, and then even if they're boarded up, it looks out of place. And then if you have a house or any other building next to it, if you have an abandoned building, location on your street, it reduces the appeal of your street, and it just lowers the value of everything. So you have all that. So urban decay is one of the things that people have talked about. Debenhams leaving, and the Holy Trinity Church that was abandoned for years, and then they got a bit of money to redevelop, but then that wasn't enough, and basically it is constant struggle. And I think this is one of the other things when you get a lot of funding. Most remote seaside towns don't get enough funding. And even the council tax or the taxes that locals pay is not enough because, first of all, the population is limited. And you need private investors to come in, build, construct things, and then get more get people to work, and all these other things. But if the younger people are leaving, and the aging population is retired and is not spending on what fashion or these other things that more the younger people would spend on, it means it's no longer a viable location for investments. And once you get into such a situation, it is not a good thing. And then that's why if you look at this one is Torquay Hotel, or it's what's the word? It's just an endless cycle. You're taking one step forward and two backwards because of location, because of the mentality of people there, and also because of the natural process of things where people go to work in London in more affluent areas or in other cities, and once they retire they tend to go to the seaside because they enjoy it, or they remember what it was like having fun over there, or they used to have families there, and then they go back to that location and they're able to just buy a house. But the newer generation, of course, can't afford to buy a house because, well, everything is more expensive, and more people going to universities and starting to enter the labor market really late. And by the time you're able to save enough, you can no longer afford to buy a house. And most of them would probably be in the bigger cities where it's more expensive. So you get it. You get a lot of like land train stop, and then you've got like the a smaller version of the London Eye, the Torquay Eye. I don't know, the Ferris wheel. The garden is well kept, so it's nice. But it's just that only this part of it is nice. And other the people have said the other side is not as nice as it should be, or it could be, or it used to be. Basically, it's been abandoned, and there isn't enough investment going into the area. So yeah, that is not a good thing when you think about it. It can be improved. All right, now another question: why is such a small town of over almost 60,000 people, so why is there so much crime and violence in the area? Well, lack of investment. If the young people don't have a future, or they don't feel they have a future, it's not good. And if it's turning into a retirement town where you have only mostly elderly people coming in, it is good, because hospitality and nursing and taking everything related to elderly people, then you might be able to get a job there. But those are not the best paying jobs, and that is another thing. And another problem is that even when the elderly people pass away, most children, if there are, wouldn't want to move back. They just tend to say, okay, I'll sell it and buy elsewhere. So when you get that, it's not a good thing, because you need younger people to come and invest and start spending money, and that's not happening. And the economic decline is one of the problems. Unstable job opportunities is another problem that causes crime, because then people are constantly worried. anxiety. You're constantly worried, paying the bills. If your child gets sick, if you need bills to pay, or if something happens, your car breaks down, all those constant worry does get to people. And after a while, some people, if they're not mentally strong enough, would probably drink themselves out of just to what's the word when you just want to numb the pain. And then, so that's not good. Child poverty is a problem. Homelessness is a problem. And then you have another problem that has been mentioned is people being drunk and fighting. And someone said, look, in the morning you get people just walking on the side of the road, and all of a sudden they start arguing, and before you know it, start throwing punches. And it's not as if the whole place is a big dump, but you get the point. It's just that this is Devon, and compared to bigger cities, you would expect it to be a bit more easygoing, but unfortunately, it isn't. And then you have up in Decay that we talked about, people not being able to afford maintaining the houses and leaving it there, and even the council doesn't have enough. And even when you look at some of the boats, this is another thing where you have boats and you have the pier and mooring, and people coming, leaving their boats there and then going to sea. But most of those people will also often just tend to come during summer. And because most of the time you can't live on your boat, even if you try to do, it's not as interesting as most people would like to believe. Living on a boat, it's nice. First of all, shopping, and depending on the type of marina you have, it can be either really expensive or just not great. So you have that. So this is a Princess Theatre that's, well, it used to be interesting in the good old days, but it's no longer as interesting as it is. You have the pier. You still have a lot of people walking around, but it's just one of those things where the average age is just so high. And when you need younger people, you need to give them something to do. And then you have the competition from places like Exeter, or more bigger cities. People go up north. They go to Manchester, or they go to Edinburgh sometimes, or London. You see, basically, it is changing. And it is there. I don't think there is a permanent solution for most of UK seaside towns, because they've had their good days, and now they're just in decline because the younger ones are moving away, or those who are not moving away are getting into trouble because, well, it's just an endless cycle of just hopelessness, unfortunately. And then, oh yeah, we talk about police, the same thing. Well, police can't be bothered. Basically, if nothing really major happens, you probably don't see them. Hey, what's happening? Two people are fighting. Okay, that's normal. Call us when it's someone's dead, something like that. I don't know. I'm just projecting here. Anyway, let's move on. All right. Some not interesting, some infamous things that actually happened. The murder of Lynn Bryant in 1998, which actually it still remain unsolved, where a woman was walking a dog near Torquay, and then well, she died, and people are like, oh, this place is dangerous. It is one of those high-profile crimes that hasn't really been solved. And when people don't know who the perpetrator is, it just sparks more theory and conspiracy theories, and people are afraid and scared that, oh, you don't want to do that because that's not a great, you don't want to go there. Anyway, but that's been a generation away. And did you know that Charles Bronson has connection to this place? It doesn't matter. Let's move on. All right, so we've talked about the problem of lack of opportunity that then leads to crime. It doesn't mean that everyone without a good job prospect is a criminal, but it's just that with the population, you would expect the area to be calmer, and it's the fact that it's further away from more affluent, more busy cities, that it would be calmer. But unfortunately, it isn't. And yeah, what can you do about that? And I don't see any type of industry moving here. Even when you compare that to Blackpool, you get the same problem. Blackpool tried to they build a tower like the mini Eiffel Tower, the antenna thing, and then there's there are rides on the front, and then you just go to the street behind it, and everything is boarded up. It just looks so depressing. And people have said Torquay, the main street, where the pier is, where the boats are, the sort of marina, is nice when it's sunny, but it can be really grim and bleak when it's like cloudy and it's raining. Especially people have said, well, don't come here during the winter, it's just not a great place to be. But I don't think it's actually only a problem with this area. Is just the UK seaside in general. They're facing the same thing where it's been abandoned, and there isn't any solution at the moment to fix them because, well, no one is investing, and that's it.